Hello and welcome to the introductory video of The Experimental Artist. Again, my name is Julie, and in these videos I will be showing you some interesting techniques to get you inspired and hopefully learn a few things. Now today we're going to be experimenting with watercolor. I love watercolors, and actually I don't use them nearly enough, but when I see designs that are really nice where they tape off the paper, you'll see here I've taped off in just a regular low-tack masking tape. I also have my watercolor palette, my clean water, my dirty water, 3 brushes, and some salt, which we'll get to later. Now, I have not watercolored probably in about 15 years, maybe more. I normally like to experiment with different things, and I remember many years ago when I was in school, my teacher showed us some cool techniques with salt. So I have put some salt in a little shaker in my little craft section, and I use it when I need it. Now this particular salt is actually a sea salt. It's not your normal coarse salt. Whoa, that's not what I wanted. See, that's what we get. On The Experimental Artist, you get everything. Bloopers and everything, all included. All right, let's get rid of that. I also have why I bought this is this came with a little water brush, which I'm not using today, but it's a refillable water brush. And one of my best memories growing up was when I was in high school. My teacher took us out to the forest and we painted trees using watercolors. And what I liked about this is it's a very compact palette with your water brush, a little thing for cleaning off your brush. And then we also have these little things that slide out. So I've used it a few times. It's just called Superior Watercolor. I just purchased this on Amazon. I want to say it was probably around $25 thereabouts. And then this is just a little mixing palette, which I've only used maybe once. So the colors have been used. Some of them are more saturated than others. I can't say they're the best I've ever used, but they're not bad. So what I want to do today is I want to experiment and make some sort of a landscape. I want to do trees, some water, and some sort of a nice little landscape, maybe a little bit of a sun, and we'll see where we go with that. Again, I really have no idea where this is going to go. I have not painted in watercolor in a very, very long time. One thing I do remember is there is a technique wet on wet. There's also basically dry on wet, where you would be, or dry on dry, I believe that's right. But the wet on wet is where you take, say for example, clean water, and you basically put it on the paper as such. Now this is I believe this is a 90, the weight is 90, and it is a watercolor paper. It's more of a student grade watercolor paper. It's not maybe an artist grade, but I bought a 100 pack online with the intention of doing a lot of videos and experimenting. So as you can see, all the little colors are listed below here, which is really lovely. There are unfortunately not a lot of blue shades. There are a few, not as many as I would like to see. So I will dip my brush in my blue. Get it nice, a lot of pigment on there, a lot of saturation. All right, and we are now going to apply it. I started with a lighter value. I'm going to go into a darker one later. Again, this has been a long time. You have to remember when you're doing, put that in the dirty, when you're doing your watercolors, you don't want to saturate your paper too much because it will start to buckle, as you can see here. Now again, why I put the masking tape was to give a nice little clean edge when the picture is dry. And I'm going to now get that a little bit clean. I'm going to add some dark. Now I'm going to grab a paper towel for cleaning and just blotting. So I'm going to put a little bit of darker blue in this, a little darker value of blue to kind of add some depth. There we go. All right. Now I just want to really show you why I like salt. Now this is going to add a very strange effect. I could technically just sprinkle it right on the piece, but what I'm going to do actually is put a tiny little bit in my hand and I'm going to pinch it from here. Okay, this is one of my favorite things, is doing the salt. So what's going to happen is when this dries, it's going to leave like nice little like speckly marks. And although I don't watch a lot of art videos on YouTube, I haven't seen this done before online. I'm sure there's several videos out there that do it, and I'm sure they probably use other things, but this is something I learned way back when and grew quite fond of. All right, let's get that little thing. So I had originally intended to do trees, but I didn't really give myself a spot to do trees. So what do we do this? What if we're going to put a little bit of land in the background. We're going to do sort of like some sort of a background. We'll call it like some sort of like a hilly background. I'm not feeling very confident about this piece. I'll be completely honest with you. I didn't really think of my layout very well. And I have a feeling it's going to show in a minute. Maybe I should have done this in brown. Okay, I'm already hating this. Wow, nice start for my videos, eh? Remember, it's called the experimental artist. It's not called the professional. So you're going to join me on this potentially disastrous journey. Okay. I'm going to do it over here, a little bit of land here. All right. There we go. Okay, so I've got some land here. All right, there we go. There's the land. I kind of like how this is looking a little bit with the darker green in there. Now I'm going to clean my brush. I've been using the same brush pretty much for everything so far. I may change it up a little bit later. Now we're going to get into a little bit of the browns. I don't know the name of these colors. I just have the numbers. This one is, what is that one? C40. That is C40 with the Superior Watercolours. All right, let's just add a little bit of dark. Little bit of dark. So little you can barely see it. All right, here we go. There we go. All right, let's get that sucker clean there. All right. All right. Now, I think we want to do a sunrise or a sunset. We're going to put some sort of a sun feature there. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with our lightest value first. I'm going to use a slightly rounder, smaller brush right here. Now, I know some brushes are better for watercolors than others. I realize that, and I'm sure in my exploratory journey, I will find some that are better than others. In this case, I'm using this little brush, and it's picking up the yellow quite well, actually. You'll see, picking up the yellow pretty well. Now, I would normally, perhaps, if I wasn't doing a video, I'd probably let the green dry a little bit more because I don't want to get any sort of bleeding in here. So we're just going to be really careful here. All right. Hey, so far so not bad. It's kind of very elementary looking, but it's okay. You know what? Art is just about creating beauty and making, you know, someone feel something. And that's the thing about art. I remember going to many museums and it was always right down to like, well, what do you feel? Because, you know, some people feel good about art. Some people don't. So I'm going to carry this out slightly. I've done a lot more water than I did color because I want it more, you know, I'm not going to go too deliberate. I want it to look a little bit. And now after this dries a little bit, I'm going to add a little bit of a reflection in the actual water to have a little bit of a reflection. So I'm going to now add some orange. This is your C08. So if you have this palette or one similar, I'm not sure if these colors are all the same in other companies. I don't know. It's kind of a question I never really looked into. So we're going to add a little bit of orange. Oops, got it into the green a little bit there. Ooh, it's starting to bleed. Sometimes that's not a bad thing. All right, let's go a little bit more in here. There we go. What do you guys think so far? Kind of looks like a fireball from the sun, some sort of an asteroid destroying the earth, kind of, doesn't it? Can't say I'm loving it, but we are not done. All is not lost. All is not lost. All right. The blue is starting to dry. There we go. Get the green a little bit more. There we go. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to do a little bit of clouds. My white is unfortunately a little bit mucky from using it in the past, but that's okay. We'll get more color there. And we're going to add a tiny shade of kind of like a bluey gray after this. Okay, so we want to keep this wet, very, very, very wet. We're going to do a little bit of a gray blue, which is kind of hard to see with this palette. I'm going to grab a little bit of the gray blue, not a lot. Ooh, that's too gray. We don't like that. Okay. Okay, and just a tiny bit of blue. Okay, now I hate how this looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to blot it. Just kind of brush it up. There we go. That's not too horrible. I'm still not loving the sun. All right, feeling a sneeze coming on. All right, we're going to put more water in this. Ooh, didn't want to do that. See, that's what happens when you don't clean your brush well enough. But the good thing is with watercolors, if you pick it up right away, it's not too big of an accident. Ooh, whew. Sneezy, sneezy, sneezy. All right, now what are we thinking? How about we put, I've got a small little flat brush here. I want to put some little trees on those hills. So we're going to do it in a very dark C42. It's so interesting getting into the YouTube world because you really don't know, you know, how many people are going to watch your videos, how they're going to be received. You know, I think maybe if I was a professional artist, I would be more inclined to, you know, have criticisms affect me a little bit more. But I am not a professional. Okay, that looks like an upside down tree right there. Does that not look upside down, this one here? Totally upside down. Hilarious. Okay, let's try to fix this a little bit. Make it a little bushier. Hey, there we go. There we go. Bushier, 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 bushier. There we go. Do a couple little trees there. Let's put a couple little ones up at the top over here. Okay. I want to make these a little bit more saturated because I don't want to have the background necessarily showing. Okay, I don't really know what that looks like, but we're going to roll with it. I think I should have grabbed a brush that didn't have quite so big bristles. This little flat brush is a little bit too, it's too wide. It's too wide, too temperamental. And we're going to put another one here. We're going to put another one. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Well, you can see how it's drying at the bottom, so you get to see the little technique and the little effect. Now, I forgot to mention, this is a fishing village. I just decided it's a tiny little fishing village. I'm not loving those trees. Okay, we're going to put a tiny little boat right through. Where do we want the boat? How about right here? There we go. There's our little boat. But we can't just have a boat floating on its own. We need to have somebody on that boat. So I am going to grab a very fine tip brush. And this one looks like it perhaps wasn't cleaned very well, but we're going to try. We're going to do more of a silhouette, okay? Now, silhouettes, I will tell you right now, is not something I'm even remotely good at. Not even like, it's pretty hilarious actually how bad I am at it. But we're going to try. That is one humongous head. That little guy on the boat, let's make it have a little bit of dimension. Buddy has a big head. That's okay. He has a very big head. That's like, okay. He's just pointing. He's just got his arms out. He's getting the energy from the sun. Let's give him a little nose. Let's give him a little nose and a big head. There we go. All right. I also want to give this a little bit of a shade. Now, when you're doing shades, you got to consider your light source. And in this case, our light source is the sun. So we're going to take a tiny, tiny little bit of, I've got a tiny bit of a black, but I don't want to use black for shade. I just want to do a tiny little bit of the blue going here. Kind of gives you an idea. There we go. All right, we have to go back and fix those trees because I can't deal with them. They're too awkward and ugly. I'm going to use this brush, make sure it's a little bit drier. I'm going to pick up some more of that dark brown. So I'd like to hear in the comments how many of you have made it this far. How many of you have so far enjoyed this experimental artist journey? What you think of this particular piece, if you think it's a lost cause, or if you think there's potential. Now, I can assure you that there are other mediums that I have more experience in, and I feel that as an artist, we're always learning and growing, even the people that have been painting for a long time. You never feel like you're at the top of your game with art. So even if you excel at one type of art, say you're good at like painting botanicals, you may not be very good at painting people, figures, landscapes, things like that. So we all have our little preferences and our little niches. I'm kind of liking how the colors are bleeding here. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in that dark brush that I had earlier. I'm going to make sure it's kind of clean. Yep, you'll notice my waters have gotten dirty. My clean has gotten dirty and my dirty is dirtier. I'm just going to get some water. I'm kind of going to like bleed that out a little bit. Not too much because I don't want the water getting too wet, but we can kind of blend that in a little bit more. There we go. I'm kind of liking that a little bit more. There we go. There we go. All right, oops, didn't want to get the blue. That was an accident. Let's get rid of that. Okay, can't even tell, hardly. Let's keep it our little secret, okay? All right, there we go. All right, yeah, that guy's arms, I'm not loving his arms, but you know, he's pointing to the sun. He's like, hey, talking to himself, look at the sunrise. That's pretty cool. Now, I do want to add a tiny little bit of the yellow to the water because there should be some level of reflection in the water. And I think that the water is dry enough now that I can add a little bit. I'm kind of going to mimic the shape of the sun slightly. There we go. Not bad, not bad. Okay, now we got to pick up oops, that's what you don't want to happen. You don't want to have a chunk of your paint fall off. That's the one challenge with these little slidey thingies. They slide off, and then you're kind of wasting entire pieces. I don't even know where that one went. Oh, there, I found it. There we go. We'll try to save him there. There we go. All right, let's get the orange. We got the orange. Come on, orange. Come on. There we go. All right, let's get the orange. Just a tiny little bit of orange. I'd also be interested in finding out in the comments where everybody's from, and how many of you are new artists, how many of you are expert artists, how many of you are laughing at this pathetic attempt at watercolor. You know what I love about art is it's something that everyone can learn and grow into. You know, I've seen some of the most successful artists have really just found their way in their older years. And I find myself now entering in my older part of my life. Well, I guess technically. They say middle age, but let's be honest, middle age isn't what it used to be. That, you know, people can start to really get close to him. They can learn where they're going with things. So there we go. All right, so I'm going to rush a little tiny bit for the sake of our piece. You know what? It's not too bad for a attempt. All right, clouds, I'm not loving you, clouds. Let's give you a last little fix, and then we're going to pull away and see how this thing turned out at the end. Get you a little bit more diluted. We don't want too much. Make you some puffy clouds here. The clouds that weren't. The clouds that weren't. Kind of like with decorating, I usually like to do things in threes, odd numbers. I don't like to just put two clouds. So we'll give another little one, like how about here? Maybe that wasn't the best place, but we'll dilute it. We'll see what we can do. There we go. There we go. All right. So you can see how the paper is kind of peeling up slightly because it's so wet. Make that cloud a little happier. All right. All right, guys, let's check it out. Close my little palette up. Sometimes it's a good idea to let these palettes dry out on their own because they really don't get a lot of air. So we're actually going to leave it open. That's even better idea. Okay, let's check it out. So we are going to call this our watercolor tutorial. Now you can see here I didn't press down on the tape enough, so we have a little bleed at the bottom. Be aware of that. And in this case, I pressed too far on the bottom and it took up some of the paper. All right, so this is a quick water tutorial. All right, guys, what do you think? Is this a hit or a miss? I personally think this is an, I don't want to say epic miss because I learned a few interesting things in it. Forgot to take the salt off, by the way. You can see the cool effect at the bottom, which I think is pretty neat. This is probably something that I would not frame, and I probably would not give this to somebody, but it is definitely something that was fun to practice. You can see how it's warped, but after it dries, it will look a lot better. If I could improve it, I would probably do a little bit of shadowing here on these sides, and I would probably fill in more of the mountains to give them a little bit more dimension and a little bit more depth. They don't really have much depth, but Buddy's enjoying his little float on the water, and it's a nice sunny day, and I appreciate you joining me. I hope you had fun on our first official episode of The Experimental Artist. Looking forward to seeing you next time, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and share and subscribe so you will not miss our next techniques on art. In the meantime, go create something beautiful.